It was the time when the fear of coronavirus gripped everyone. Mr. Kim and his family were busy orchestrating an escape plan. One tumultuous night, he and his brother, along with their families, secretly made their way to where the getaway boat was moored. With bated breath, they maneuvered to evade the piercing beams of the guards' searchlights. As they finally reached the boat, they carefully concealed their children with old grain sacks, ingeniously disguising them as bags of tools. With hearts pounding, they embarked on their journey toward South Korea. Who were they, and what were they fleeing from? You will know soon enough. You might have heard several rumors about North Korea, like the ban on laughing and crying out loud or the ban on social media apps. But today's real story might leave several of your dreams haunted. It is a real country where leaving the state is totally out of business, just like being imprisoned in your own home or born in a jail. Leaving the country in North Korea is considered a serious crime, often punishable by immediate execution or a trip to one of the regime's concentration camps. And trust me, the conditions in these camps are beyond horrifying. We're talking starvation, torture, and even sickening experiments. But hold up, even within the country, your movements are strictly regulated. Want to travel from one province to another? You might need legal permission from the state. Human rights? Forget about it. People are living through a nightmare there, while we sit here talking about it. And here's the gut-wrenching part. If you somehow made it out, but your family was left behind, trust me, you don't want to know what would happen to them. It's like you're sentencing them to a fate worse than death. They'll be treated worse than animals, and that alone is enough to make anyone think twice about leaving. But let's say you have decided that you won't be staying at any cost, or you have considered all the risks. One option is heading to South Korea, but here's the kicker: a border that's not just a line on a map, but a fortress. North Korea's border with South Korea is exactly that. It stretches for 155 miles, heavily mined, fortified with barbed wire, rows of surveillance cameras, and electric fencing. Thousands of troops patrol this boundary, making it nearly impossible to traverse. Only a handful of people have managed it. Imagine a world with no free speech, where every citizen is forced to serve in the army for at least a decade. North Koreans are bombarded with constant propaganda, fed a one-sided story of their glorious nation. It's a place with no existent romance and families, and where the word love means only one thing, which is the love for their dear leader. Entering North Korea as a tourist or foreign visitor is an arduous task, to say the least. Even if one manages to navigate the complex process of obtaining permission to enter the country, they are met with tight surveillance from the moment they set foot on North Korean soil. Every move is closely monitored, and visitors are meticulously shown only what the regime wants them to see. A carefully curated image designed to portray a utopian society under the dear leader's rule. However, even amidst this, tourists must tread carefully, as any deviation from the regime's strict guidelines could result in severe consequences, even the death penalty. A scary place to even visit is what North Korea has become more lately. And these are not mere jokes. The tragic case of Otto Warmbier, an American student who ventured to North Korea in 2016. His supposed crime? Allegedly taking a propaganda poster from his hotel wall, an act that hardly seems worthy of punishment. And for this so-called crime, he was swiftly sentenced to 15 years of hard labor, setting off a chain of events that ended in unimaginable tragedy. Just what was he made to do there, nobody knows. Just after a short while of his imprisonment, he suffered from a neurological injury and fell into a comatose state, which lasted till his death. He never regained consciousness, and on investigations, it was found out he died because of some hypoxic injury to his brain, although there were no signs of skull fracture. What he was put through is a total mystery. Stories like Warmbier serve as a sobering reminder of the risk associated with visiting such an isolated and authoritarian regime. They paint a vivid picture of a place where even the most innocuous actions can have dire consequences, leaving many understandably hesitant to explore its secretive depths. And if this isolation was not enough, to add salt to injury, when the coronavirus epidemic happened in 2019, North Korea was the first country on the line to declare a complete lockdown from the outside world. It slammed its doors shut tighter than ever before. Borders already guarded like Fort Knox were now under even stricter surveillance. Orders were issued to shoot down anyone who tried to cross the borders immediately. This had a serious impact on the number of defectors, the people who tried to escape from this horrible part of the world. Back in 2009, the number of defectors reached a total annual number of 2,914, but the impact of COVID-19 left numbers at only 67 in 2022. Ever wondered how North Korea manages such tight surveillance with its 4 borders? Well, it all boils down to its geographical location. To the south lies South Korea, which still considers all inhabitants of the Korean peninsula as its own. Sounds like an easy path to citizenship, right? Think again. As already discussed, the boundary separating the 2 Koreas is arguably the most heavily fortified border on the planet, making crossing it akin to attempting the impossible. Turning to the east and west, we encounter the vast expanse of the Sea of Japan and the Yellow Sea. Escaping by sea? Forget about it. Unless you happen to stumble upon a seaworthy vessel and enough provisions to sustain you, you'll likely find yourself facing off against the formidable North Korean Navy. A battle one cannot win with just guts or mind. This leaves us with just one more option, and that is to go to China or Russia. But there's a catch. The words might seem cold, but it maintains a strategic alliance with North Korea. As a result, China categorically refuses to grant North Korean defectors refugee status, instead labeling them as illegal economic immigrants. So, the consequence, if one is caught? Immediate deportation back to North Korea, where harsh punishment awaits. So, the only way to leverage China as an escape route is to first navigate through its tightly monitored borders and then somehow make your way to one of the neighboring countries, Vietnam, Mongolia, or the Philippines. Easier said than done. Picture this. Evading the watchful eyes of China's extensive surveillance network is no mean feat. And even if you manage to slip through undetected, the journey to any of these 3 countries is fraught with obstacles and challenges, each more daunting than the last. A life where information is tightly controlled, where every move is scrutinized, and dissent is a dangerous notion. This is the daily reality for North Koreans. Even a glimpse of the outside world through a forbidden movie or smuggled radio broadcast can spark a desire for a different life. 2 decades ago, slipping out of North Korea was a gamble, but an affordable one. Brokers back then might charge you a couple $1,000 to sneak you across the border to China and then on to South Korea. Freedom had a price tag, but it wasn't out of reach for the truly desperate. Now? Forget about it. Those same brokers want 10 times as much, a whopping 21 grand for one person. That's more than a decade's worth of wages for most North Koreans, who are lucky to see $2,000 in a year. Escaping North Korea has become a rich man's game, leaving the average person trapped with little hope of ever seeing a life beyond the borders. The passing of Kim Jong-il only served to exacerbate an already dire situation. His successor, Kim Jong-un, took the reins and proceeded to tighten the regime's grip even further, leaving a little room for dissent or escape. In this period, the government made it illegal to laugh or shout. This rule, along with the limits on drinking and fun activities, lasted for 11 days as a part of a big memorial. People couldn't even have normal celebrations like birthdays or go grocery shopping. If someone cried too loudly after losing a family member during this period, they could get in serious trouble. What about the social media? Are North Koreans not connected to the world? Unlike the openness of South Korea, North Korea has a tightly controlled internal network called Kwangmyeong. Think of it as a walled garden with state-approved content only. There's no Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram for North Koreans. So, social media as a tool for escaping planning or outside contact is practically non-existent. Cell phones are more common in North Korea than you might think. Estimates suggest millions have them. The good news is they can be used to communicate discreetly within North Korea, potentially aiding escape plans. The bad news is the government controls the network, Korealink. Calls and messages can be monitored, making it risky to discuss escape plans openly. Some escapees try to use black market phones smuggled in from China. These offer a way to contact brokers or supporters outside of North Korea, but they're expensive and very risky. If caught, the punishment can be severe. Even religion isn't spared from the tight grip of regulation in North Korea. According to a recent International Religious Freedom report by the U.S. State Department, a staggering number of 70,000 Christians are believed to be imprisoned in North Korea. What's even more harrowing is the fact that if you're found violating their strict religious terms, your entire family is subjected to punishment. A heart-wrenching example is that of a 2-year-old toddler sentenced to life in prison simply because his parents were found in possession of a Bible. Despite these immense risks, people still manage to escape. As the saying goes, where there's a will, there's a way. A total of 34,000 defectors have bravely made their way to South Korea, thousands to Europe, and another 200 to America, with these numbers steadily increasing each year. Yeon-mi Park, a courageous woman, shares her powerful journey in a TED Talk. At the tender age of 10, her father was unjustly sent to a labor camp for what the regime deemed as illegal trading. In truth, he was merely trying to provide for his family by selling basic necessities like clogs, sugar, and rice. This injustice ignited a fierce determination within Yeon-mi and her younger sister to break free from the oppressive regime. In her poignant account, Yeon-mi paints a stark picture of life in North Korea. She reflects on how, growing up, the concept of love was synonymous with adoration for the dear leader, raised to believe that their leader possessed godlike abilities, including the ability to read their thoughts. North Koreans lived in constant fear and reverence. However, Yeon-mi's perception began to shift when she scrutinized a picture of the dear leader and noticed his exaggerated size. Someone made her realize that the guy is actually fat and is not starving the same as them. This sensation alone was enough for her to realize what was happening. She explains the situation in North Korea by stating that if she were to see someone dying on the street right now, she would do anything to save that person. However, during her time in North Korea, witnessing people dying and dead on the streets didn't evoke any feelings within her. This wasn't due to being a psychopath, but rather because she had never learned the concept of compassion. It was only after she learned the word compassion and understood its concept that she began to feel compassion, empathy, and sympathy in her heart. So let these journeys of these people who risk their lives for a better future for themselves and their future generations inspire us. Let the resilience embolden us, and let their quest for freedom ignite within us a renewed determination to stand in solidarity with those still yearning to break free. For where there's a will, there's always a way. To tear down the walls of oppression and build a future where all can live in dignity and liberty. Thanks for watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.